The stars stretched endlessly beyond the Valiant's observation deck, glittering like distant promises of peace and war. Commander Talia Morgan stood alone, gazing into the void. The battles were behind her, but the future was unwritten. Humanity's predator mode had been seen and tested, and now the galaxy waited to see what humans would become. The recent victory at Vega had sent a clear message. Humanity was no longer a race to be underestimated or controlled. They had strength, speed, and the will to survive, traits born from centuries of struggle and growth. Back on the bridge, the hum of activity was steady but purposeful. The crew prepared for their next move, rebuilding alliances, sharing intelligence, and protecting human space from any threat. Lieutenant Cato approached Talia with a datapad. "Commander, we have received an urgent message from the Galactic Council. They want a formal meeting." Talia raised an eyebrow. "A formal meeting? After everything?" Cato nodded. "Yes, it seems the Council wants to discuss a new alliance with humans as equals." Talia smiled faintly. "Then it's time we show them what predator mode truly means. In peace." The meeting took place on the neutral space station Aurelia, a shining jewel of diplomacy and hope. Representatives from many species gathered, including the Council's leaders and the Coalition's former commanders. Talia arrived with her closest officers, their uniforms crisp and their faces calm. The atmosphere was tense but hopeful. Council leader Valeris greeted them. "Commander Morgan, we have watched your people closely. Your strength and courage have changed the galaxy's view of humanity." Talia nodded. "We do not seek war, only respect and peace." Discussions began with honesty and openness. The Coalition's leaders admitted their fear of humanity's rapid growth and unknown abilities. But they also expressed admiration for the humans' unity and resilience. "We were wrong to try and contain you," said one alien diplomat. "Your predator mode is a gift, not a threat." Talia listened carefully. "It is a gift only when controlled. We fight to protect, not to destroy." The Council proposed a new alliance, an agreement to share knowledge, resources, and defense. Humans would gain access to technology and aid, and in return, they would help keep peace in the galaxy. Talia considered the offer. It was a chance to build a future not built on fear or war, but on respect and cooperation. She stood, her voice strong and clear. "We accept this alliance. But remember this, we will always protect our own. Predator mode is part of who we are, and it will guide us to defend freedom and justice." The room filled with quiet respect. Outside the station, the galaxy seemed to breathe a little easier. The war had not ended, but a new chapter had begun. Back on the Valiant, Talia addressed her crew. "We have shown the galaxy our strength," she said. "Now we must show them our heart. Predator mode is more than battle. It is the courage to stand together and the wisdom to choose peace." The crew smiled, their spirits lifted. Far beyond the familiar stars of Earth's night sky, the galaxy was full of life. Many kinds of life, some strange, some beautiful, and some not so easy to understand. Among these many worlds, a curious alien species called the Valari watched the blue planet known as Earth from a distance. The Valari were peaceful explorers who studied other planets to learn about their creatures and cultures. One day, their sensors picked up a signal unlike anything they had seen before. It came from Earth's surface, a place full of water and green land. This signal was not like the natural sounds of animals or weather. It was something else. It was loud, fast, and full of energy. The Valari decided to send a small ship to investigate. The ship moved silently through space, traveling closer and closer to Earth. The Valari were experts at exploring new worlds without disturbing them. Their ship hovered above a large city on Earth. From space, the planet looked peaceful and calm. But when they used their sensors to scan the surface, they detected many strange creatures running, jumping, and playing. The Valari had never seen animals like these before. Most animals they knew were quiet or slow, but these creatures were loud, fast, and full of life. The Valari called them monsters because they were different and hard to understand. These monsters had fur, 4 legs, sharp teeth, and big eyes. They barked and wagged their tails, moving quickly from one place to another. To the Valari, these creatures looked wild and even dangerous. But they also saw something strange. Humans, 2-legged creatures with soft skin and curious faces, loved these monsters. The humans spoke to them kindly, petted their fur, and smiled when the monsters wagged their tails. The Valari could not understand why. Among the Valari was a scientist named Rilthak. He was different from the others. Instead of being scared of the monsters, he was curious. He wanted to learn more about them and why humans seemed to care so much for these strange creatures. Rilthak carefully landed his small research drone near a park in the city. There he watched as humans and monsters played together. Children threw small round objects and the monsters chased them happily. When the children laughed, the monsters barked in joy. The scene was full of warmth and friendship. As Rilthak observed, he saw a human woman call to a monster with a soft voice. The creature, a medium-sized furry animal, ran to her and jumped up, licking her face. The woman laughed and hugged the monster. Rilthak was surprised. The monster was not wild and scary. It was gentle and friendly. Rilthak sent a message to the Valari command ship. These monsters are not what we expected. They show loyalty and kindness to humans. This is unusual. Request permission to study further. The Valari leader replied. Proceed with caution. The monsters may be dangerous. Remember, we know little about Earth. Rilthak nodded. He decided to learn everything he could about these creatures, hoping to find the truth. Over the next few days, Rilthak's drone followed humans and their monsters. He saw the monsters help humans in many ways. Some guarded homes, standing watch at doors and barking to warn of danger. Others helped farmers by herding animals or carrying small loads. Many simply stayed close to humans, offering comfort and friendship. Rilthak noticed how the monsters seemed to understand human feelings. When a human was sad, the monster would sit quietly beside them, resting its head on their lap. When a human was happy, the monster would jump and run, sharing the joy. This was very different from any relationship the Valari had with animals on their own planets. Here the bond was strong and deep. One evening, Rilthak's drone recorded a family sitting by a small fire in their backyard. The monster lay on its side, eyes half closed, breathing softly. The humans spoke in low voices and gently stroked the monster's fur. The feeling of love and trust filled the air. Rilthak felt something he had never felt before. A sense of wonder. How could such creatures be called monsters? To humans, these were good boys, friends who never left their side. Determined to learn more, Rilthak decided to meet the humans himself. He carefully disguised his appearance to look less frightening. When he approached a park where many monsters played, he saw a young boy throwing a stick for a monster to chase. The monster ran after the stick, caught it, and returned it happily. The boy laughed and hugged the monster. Rilthak stepped closer, raising a hand slowly to show he meant no harm. The boy looked up, curious but not afraid. "Hello," he said. "Do you want to play?" Rilthak was surprised. No one had spoken to him like that before. Slowly, a monster approached him. It was a large dog with soft fur and bright eyes. It sniffed Rilthak's hand, wagged its tail, and sat down. The boy smiled. "His name is Max. He's a good boy." Rilthak felt a smile spread across his own face. Maybe these monsters were not monsters at all. Maybe they were something much more. He spent more time with the humans and their good boys, learning about their history and how they became such important friends. He discovered that long ago, humans and dogs lived together to help each other survive. Over thousands of years, they grew close, teaching each other how to trust and care. Rilthak sent a report back to the Valari. These creatures are not monsters. They are partners, friends, and protectors. They teach us that strength is not just power, but love and loyalty. Some Valari were slow to believe. They still feared the monsters because they were different. But others, inspired by Rilthak's discoveries, wanted to learn more. For the first time, the Valari looked at Earth with new eyes. They saw not a planet of wild creatures and unknown dangers, but a place where kindness and friendship grew in unexpected ways. And in the heart of it all were the good boys, the dogs, who, without words, showed that even the wildest monsters could be the best friends in the universe. Rilthak's discoveries about the monsters had stirred great interest among the Valari, but many were still confused. How could creatures so wild and loud be so loved by humans? To understand, they needed to learn more about human culture and the history of these strange animals. Rilthak was assigned a new mission: to observe humans and their good boys closely, and to find a way to explain their bond to the Valari people. Back on Earth, Rilthak watched carefully. He noticed that dogs were not just pets. They were part of human families. They shared homes, meals, and even rest with humans. Dogs seemed to understand human words, emotions, and even the smallest gestures. One day, in a quiet suburban neighborhood, Rylthak's drone followed a human family. There was a mother, father, and 2 children. A large golden dog, happy and energetic, walked with them. The dog was named Bailey. Bailey played with the children, chased butterflies, and gently carried a ball in his mouth. The family laughed and talked to Bailey, using soft voices filled with love. Rylthak's sensors recorded the sounds and images. He noticed how Bailey seemed to know when someone was happy or sad. When the youngest child fell and cried, Bailey quickly came close, licking the child's face and resting his head on the child's lap. The child's tears stopped, replaced by a small smile. Rylthak thought deeply. These monsters had a special role that no other creature had. They were healers of the heart, as well as helpers in daily life. To understand more, Rylthak sought out a human expert, Dr. Emily Carter, a scientist who studied animal behavior and human relationships. Rylthak contacted her carefully, hoping she would trust him despite his strange appearance. Dr. Carter was surprised when a visitor from another world appeared at her lab, but she was curious and open-minded. She agreed to help Rylthak understand the mystery of dogs. Together, they studied dogs of many kinds. Dr. Carter explained that dogs and humans had a very long history. Thousands of years ago, dogs were wild wolves. Humans and wolves learned to live near each other. Over time, some wolves became less afraid of humans, and humans learned to care for these animals. This slow friendship grew into a partnership. Dogs helped humans hunt, guard homes, and keep watch. In return, humans gave dogs food, shelter, and love. Dr. Carter showed Rylthak pictures of dogs doing many important jobs, guiding people who could not see, helping police find lost persons, and even joining astronauts on space missions. Rylthak listened closely. He realized that dogs were more than just animals. They were partners in survival and success. But why do humans call them good boys? Rylthak asked one day. Dr. Carter smiled. It's a way to show affection. Dogs respond well to kind words and gentle voices. Calling them good boys makes them happy and helps build trust. Rylthak thought about this. In Valari culture, words were mostly used for facts and commands. Showing affection through words was less common. This idea was new to him. As the days passed, Rylthak learned more about human emotions. He saw that humans often felt lonely or afraid, but their dogs helped them feel safe and loved. Dogs could sense when humans were upset, and their presence brought comfort. Rylthak began to understand that the bond between humans and dogs was a form of communication deeper than words. It was trust, loyalty, and friendship. One afternoon, Rylthak visited a school with Dr. Carter. Children were learning about animals, and many brought their dogs to class. The dogs sat quietly, listening and playing gently with the children. A little girl named Mia hugged her small dog, Rusty. Mia explained to the class how Rusty helped her when she was afraid of thunder. Rusty would stay close, licking her hand and making her feel safe. Rylthak watched the interaction and felt a warmth he had never known before. This was a new kind of friendship, one built on kindness and care. Back on the Valari ship, Rylthak reported his findings. Some Valari leaders were still unsure. How can a wild creature be safe? How can they be trusted? One elder asked. Rylthak replied, because they choose to be friends. Because love and loyalty make them strong. They protect humans not out of fear, but because they care. Slowly, the Valari began to question their old beliefs. They had feared what was different. Now they saw a new truth. Strength was not only in power but in connection. However, not all Valari agreed. Some saw dogs as unpredictable wild animals. They wanted to keep their distance. This disagreement caused tension on the Valari ship. Rylthak worried that misunderstanding might bring danger. To solve this, Dr. Carter suggested a meeting. Humans and Valari would come together to share their stories and learn from each other. She believed that open hearts and open minds could build bridges. The meeting was held on Earth in a peaceful park filled with green trees and bright flowers. Humans and Valari sat together, watching dogs play nearby. Rilthak spoke first. He told the story of his journey, how he had come to understand dogs as friends and protectors. He showed pictures and videos of dogs helping humans in many ways. Then Dr. Carter spoke about the importance of trust and kindness. She explained how dogs and humans had grown together, learning from each other over thousands of years. Some Valari listened quietly. Others asked questions, still unsure. A young Valari named Tavar stood up. "I see your words, but how do we know these monsters will always be safe? What if they are dangerous when we don't see, Doctor?" Carter smiled gently. "Dogs are not perfect. They can be afraid or confused, just like people. But they learn with love and patience. They want to be good friends. If you take time to understand and care for them, you will see their true nature." The Valari looked at the dogs running and playing. One dog came close to the group and wagged its tail. A Valari child reached out slowly and the dog sniffed his hand. In that moment, something changed. The Valari began to see dogs not as monsters, but as good boys, friends who brought joy and comfort. The cultural divide between the Valari and humans grew smaller. The two species learned to respect each other's differences and to find common ground. Rilthak felt hope. He knew this was just the beginning. There was much more to learn, but the first step had been taken. As the sun set, casting golden light over the park, humans, Valari, and dogs shared a quiet moment. They were different in many ways, but they were connected by something powerful, a bond of friendship, and in the distance, a dog barked happily, reminding them all that sometimes the simplest things could teach the greatest lessons. The peace between the Valari and humans was new and fragile. Although many Valari had begun to see dogs as friends, not monsters, there were still those who feared the unknown. Tensions on the Valari ship remained, and some leaders whispered about the dangers of trusting creatures they barely understood. Meanwhile, on Earth, the relationship between humans and dogs continued to grow stronger. Dogs helped with daily tasks, comforted their humans, and shared a special bond that even Rilthak admired. But an unexpected challenge was about to test this fragile friendship. One quiet evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the sky turned pink and orange, a group of Valari from a different faction arrived near Earth's orbit. They were strict and cautious, believing that Earth and its creatures were too dangerous to trust. They sent a small fleet to the planet with orders to observe closely and prepare to act if needed. Rilthak learned about this fleet from the Valari command. He was worried. He knew that humans and their good boys were peaceful, but the new Valari faction saw the dogs as wild beasts, unpredictable and threatening. On the ground, Dr. Emily Carter was hosting a meeting between human leaders and Valari representatives, hoping to build trust and share knowledge. Suddenly, the communication screens flickered. Alarms rang through the Valari ships above. The new faction was moving closer to Earth's cities, their ships casting long shadows across the sky. The peaceful atmosphere turned tense. Rilthak and the other Valari representatives tried to calm the situation, but it was clear that the new faction did not want peace. In the city below, humans noticed the strange ships and grew worried. Dogs barked loudly, sensing the change in the air. The city prepared for any possible trouble, but no one expected what would happen next. Suddenly, a group of small Valari drones landed near the city's research center. The drones scanned everything quickly and began to interfere with the equipment. The peaceful mission turned into a crisis. Humans were confused and scared. The dogs, sensing the danger, began to act. They barked loudly and ran toward the drones. The dogs' bravery surprised everyone. They did not run away. Instead, they surrounded the drones, using their size and numbers to protect their human friends. Rilthak watched in amazement. The dogs moved as if they understood exactly what was happening. They worked together, barking, circling, and staying close to the humans. The drones tried to retreat, but the dogs were too quick and smart. The humans joined in to help. They used their knowledge of technology to stop the drones, working side by side with their dogs. It was a moment of true cooperation between species. On the Valari command ship, leaders were shocked by the dogs' actions. The monsters were not just animals, they were protectors, showing courage and loyalty beyond what the Valari had imagined. Realthak knew this was the moment to change minds. He sent an urgent message to the strict Valari faction, explaining what he had seen. The dogs were not a threat, but heroes. Meanwhile, the humans and dogs continued to defend the city. The dogs stayed close, watching for any new danger, while the humans worked to secure the research center. The trust between humans and dogs was stronger than ever. After the crisis passed, the Valari faction that had come with the drones was called back. They had seen enough to understand that their fears were wrong. Back at the park where the first meeting had been held, humans and Valari gathered again. This time the mood was hopeful and strong. The dogs played freely, wagging their tails and bringing smiles to everyone's faces. Realthak spoke with pride. These good boys have shown us that friendship is the greatest strength. They protect not only humans but the peace we all wish to keep. Dr. Carter nodded. They remind us that courage comes in many forms and sometimes it is quiet and loyal. The Valari began to open their hearts fully. They invited dogs onto their ships and learned to care for them as humans did. The dogs adapted quickly, exploring new worlds alongside their human and Valari friends. Through this crisis, the Valari and humans learned a valuable lesson. When they worked together, nothing was impossible. The dogs were the bridge between two worlds, teaching courage, trust, and the power of friendship. As stars glittered above, the future looked brighter than ever. The monsters were no longer feared but celebrated. They were the good boys of the galaxy, heroes who showed that sometimes love and loyalty are the strongest forces in the universe. After the crisis, a new spirit of friendship filled the air. The Valari began to look at Earth and its creatures with fresh eyes. But Realthak knew that understanding was more than watching. It meant learning the true story behind these amazing good boys. Realthak decided to spend more time with the humans and their dogs. He wanted to know everything, from how dogs lived to why they were so loyal and kind. One morning, he visited a small town where dogs and humans worked side by side. Farmers used dogs to help herd sheep. Children played with dogs in the fields. Old people sat on porches, stroking the fur of their gentle companions. Realthak observed closely. He saw how dogs listened carefully to their humans, following commands and reading expressions. Dogs seemed to understand not just words, but feelings, too. Curious, Realthak asked Dr. Emily Carter to explain more about dogs' biology. She shared stories of how dogs evolved from wolves thousands of years ago. Wolves were wild and fearful, Dr. Carter said. But some wolves lived near humans, slowly learning to trust them. Humans gave food and safety, and wolves helped humans hunt and protect their homes. Over many generations, these wolves changed. They became dogs. Realthak's eyes widened as he listened. So these monsters are the result of a long friendship? They changed to be friends? Dr. Carter nodded. Yes, dogs and humans grew together. They taught each other how to live and trust. Realthak was amazed. This was more than biology. It was a story of friendship and cooperation that lasted thousands of years. As days passed, Realthak spent time with dogs of many kinds, big ones, small ones, fast ones, calm ones. He learned about their different skills and personalities. He met a police dog named Rex who helped find missing people. Rex worked with a human partner, following scents and clues with sharp focus. He saw a therapy dog named Lily, who visited hospitals to comfort sick patients. Lily had a gentle way, making people smile with her soft fur and calm eyes. Realthak felt a deep respect for these creatures. They were brave, gentle, smart, and loving. One evening, Realthak joined a human family for dinner. The dog, a small terrier named Max, sat quietly beside the table. When the family laughed, Max wagged his tail happily. When a child said something sad, Max rested his head on the child's knee. The Valari scientist thought about how dogs could sense feelings without words. It was a special gift. Back on the Valari ship, Realthak shared his findings with other scientists. They studied dog behavior and biology together. They discovered that dogs had unique brain chemistry that made them love and trust humans deeply. Dogs could feel emotions like happiness and sadness. They wanted to please their humans and protect them. This was very different from Valari animals who were mostly independent and less social. The dog's deep loyalty was rare and special. As the Valari learned more, they began to use the name Good Boys with respect and affection. It was a sign that their fear had changed into admiration. One day during a joint Valari-human celebration, Rylthak spoke to a large crowd. The park was full of humans, Valari and dogs running and playing. Rylthak told the story of dogs' evolution and friendship with humans. He explained how dogs taught them about loyalty and kindness. A human child asked, "Do you think dogs will ever live with Valari forever?" Rylthak smiled. "I believe they already do. Wherever there is kindness and trust, dogs will find a home." The Valari leaders agreed. They planned to bring dogs onto their ships and colonies across the galaxy. The next challenge was learning how to care for dogs in space and on other worlds. Valari scientists and human experts worked together to make new homes where dogs could be happy and safe. Dogs adjusted quickly, exploring new planets, wagging their tails at strange smells and new friends. Rylthak thought about the future. Dogs were more than companions, they were teachers of connection. They showed that true strength came from caring for others. He remembered the first time he saw a dog and called it a monster. Now, he knew better. Dogs were heroes in their own way, silent, loyal, and brave. In this new era, humans, Valari, and dogs would explore the stars together. They would face new challenges and adventures, but always with friendship and trust. As the stars shone brightly above, Rylthak looked at a dog lying beside him. The dog's eyes were calm and full of love. He whispered, "Good boy," and the dog wagged its tail.